class. This week we're studying externalities. And when we think of externalities, we can think of either positive or negative externalities. In economics, as like any news in life, we think about the negative externalities first. The main one we talk about today is pollution and the environment. Anytime we're producing a product and then shipping it overseas, we're going to create pollution, and that is just one of the negative externalities. We do this because other countries have comparative advantage in producing certain products, and so they can produce them and ship them cheaper than what we could actually produce them here in the US. And so the easiest way really around pollution is, I put at the very bottom, not purchasing items, or the second thing would be producing and selling them locally. That pollution is also going to be produced anytime you make an item. So you're going to get it anytime you make something, but the shipping is really a big added cost that it does make things a lot cheaper for us, but in the long run, it's causing some pollution. I also teach environmental class, and we say in that class, it costs about 20% of what it would cost to remove all the pollution, to remove 80% of it, and then 80% of the cost to remove the pollution are in that last 20%. And so to get rid of the pollution, for the first part is cheap, but that last part is just sticking around. Another negative externality that you might see is if you think of the Dead Sea and you go to the beauty store, even like a Walgreens or a Walmart, you'll see lots of products made with Dead Sea salt. This is excellent. Nobody has control over the Dead Sea, so there's lots of companies going in and they're pulling out all of the salt in this very, very unique place, and their sea levels are falling dramatically, and they think that it's actually going to end up going dry in not terribly long because of what they're doing. This happens anytime you don't have a real owner of a product. This leads us into property rights and things like that. But anytime you don't have a true owner of a property, you see lots of negative externalities as people just aren't required to follow the rules, and in general we have more greed as a society, and so we're going to do those things. Like I said before, not purchasing items is really great if you can do that. The problem with that I wanted to bring up is if we don't purchase items, we don't need to produce items, and that leads into restricting our supply. And so anytime you're supplying less items, you're going to see layoffs and things like that. And so if you think of the good and the bad, you want to see us purchasing items from an economic standpoint, but not as much from an environmental standpoint. So I just thought I would bring that in. Now let's talk about positive externalities. The biggest one that we see each and every day in our lives is education. The more educated the world is, the better choices that we can make, the more rational our decision making is. It's just always a plus no matter what you're producing. You're just more innovative in that respect. Another positive externality that you may not have considered is the weight of cars and crashes. If you say, for instance, you have a 6,000-pound car and you were to crash into a 3,000-pound car, you would be more likely to be safe because your car would weigh more. And I'm noticing this a lot as cars move on. And so cars have gotten actually heavier. The average car weighs about 4,000 pounds now. Another final thing I wanted to bring into our topic of positive externalities is what we do at our home. If you look at your neighbors' houses, you can see how they can add or detract value to your home. You can see how a neighbor adding new landscaping, new flowers, a new lawn could really impact people wanting to buy your house because it looks like it's in a kept neighborhood. When we bought our first house, it was definitely not in a kept neighborhood. The guy across the street drove a tractor and he parked that in his front yard. When we first moved in, we assumed it was just there, to get back to a farm sort of thing for the weekend, and then we realized he just drove it around town that way and left it parked in the yard. And so that negatively attracts to your house. But there can be both positive and negative externalities to your neighbors. So that's something you can kind of think about personally. I hope this video has helped you learn just a little bit more about externalities and how they affect us in our lives. Have a great week.